Welcome to the channel where we talk about challenges being turned into opportunities to address the multiplicity of issues that we face across the world and more so in the African continent. On this channel, you will understand and you will learn. Please do subscribe so that anytime there is a new episode, you can be able to receive it anytime it's uploaded. So click on the notification button and then get things going. Today, we will be talking about practical ways to address the drought that we see across Africa and more so in the Horn of Africa. And we are going to talk about how we can move from reactive interventions to proactive interventions. I'm Richard Munang, your host. See you soon. Welcome again, and practical solutions to address the drought that we face in the entire African continent are urgent. We need to discuss how we can move from reactive interventions to proactive interventions. Let's face it, East Africa, as we speak today, the Horn of Africa, and are facing the third consecutive drought since 2020, occasioned by La Nina conditions. So we are seeing compounding effects, including those of the locust crisis. That was the worst outbreak in 70 years and caused up to $8 billion in food loss. As many as 20 million people in 4 countries of the Horn of Africa are at severe risk as we speak, facing severe food shortages. In this region, where livestock and agriculture are the mainstays, 1.5 million heads of cattle have died. At a reserve price of 200 per community, they are losing almost 300 million. Can you imagine? Just in February 2022, food prices have also skyrocketed, with harvests as low as 70% below normal levels. Therefore, the situation is very, very serious, and these droughts have the general effect of reversing the socio-economic gains of the people of the region of the Horn of Africa. So the question then becomes, what impacts are climate change having on these current droughts? Well, let's face it, the current drought is attributed to La Nina conditions, an extreme climate effect that has been on since 2020. Under the changing climate, the intensity and frequency of these extreme events are projected to increase. The science is unequivocally clear from the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Assessment report recorded that the globe is set to breach the safe 1.5 degree warming within 2 decades. This only implies that increased frequencies of droughts and the growth of hyper-arid and arid areas like the Horn of Africa will continue, meaning more fierce droughts lie ahead. Climate change will continue to exacerbate these effects, especially now, considering that the globe is on track to breach the safe 1.5 warming in just 2 decades. And with Africa warming faster than the rest of the world, the die is cast. So the question then becomes, how do we deal with droughts and contain them and help people of the affected nations? And the answer is simple. What is needed right now is an entire paradigm shift in the approach of addressing these droughts. We urgently need to move away from the knee-jerk approach to embrace a long-term approach that builds the resilience of communities from the ground. And for this, the answer is in one word: socioeconomics. While climate change is global, what we know is that the poor are always disproportionately vulnerable because they lack the resources to afford alternatives to buffer themselves when disasters strike. The core of long-term resilience is about building socioeconomics. If communities are empowered socioeconomically, they stand a better chance of buffering themselves against the losses and vulnerabilities caused by droughts. This must be weaved into the livelihoods of these communities, and how climate action can be a provider of practical solutions to this end is an urgent imperative. And there are 4 things that need to be done. The first is, we need a paradigm shift in the narrative of climate action, which must be fostered as an investment opportunity, where we diverge from projecting liability to projecting investment opportunities. And this will work best if we embrace what I call mitigation powering adaptation. Across Africa, including the Horn of Africa, most countries' climate commitment, popularly known as nationally determined contributions, front clean energy and agriculture as the leading priorities. Clean energy, as we know, is the leading mitigation priority, while sustainable agriculture is the leading adaptation priority. What is needed is a narrative change that premises action in these areas as socially driven, where returns are measured as social impact to move now to financial investments, financial investment driven, where returns are measured in financial dividends. Just to give an example, communities in this part of the world have lost over $300 million in livestock wasting due to the drought so far. Decentralizing climate action solutions of solar dryer, a mitigation action to enable these communities to prepare and dry the meat from the animals before they die off, means generating income while mitigating against emissions that compound climate change. Solar dryers have been shown to increase the shelf life of crop yields, and by this enhance market opportunities and increase earnings by up to 30 times. The Horn of Africa needs to make this narrative the norm at all levels of decision making, to have communities embrace these climate action solutions as investments that will enhance their financial bottom line, not only social actions for consumption. And that takes me to the second point, which is very important. We must leverage local communal institutions as conduits to mobilize investments for solutions. We need to ask ourselves how the Horn of Africa communities can access savings, can access investment financial systems that are most accessible to them. Accordingly, what we know is that local communal cooperatives need to be activated among communities, especially in this part of the world, through targeted incentives such as awareness raising and other market incentives such as buying of products strictly through cooperatives. Through such structures, any income generated gets invested and pooled to enable communities to afford better, higher order value addition solutions they need to drive their livelihoods. The solar dryers that I've mentioned upfront are an example. And that takes me to the third point, which is key. It is key for the entire African continent. Local private-public partnerships to drive value addition is key. Infrastructure for value addition, such as solar dryers, which are climate action solutions, solar irrigation, which are climate action solutions, water harvesting, are critical to unlocking livelihood opportunities. Such dry areas are capital expensive that are out of reach of communities. But governments working with communities in local public-private partnerships can generate symbiotic collaborations, where governments make capital investments in this shared infrastructure, and community savings and investing through cooperatives take charge of such infrastructure operational and maintenance costs. For example, an abattoir set up by the government to enable meat processing for communities, who then reinvest monies through the cooperatives to operate and maintain the abattoir, will go a long way to ensure communities' ownership of such solutions. Did you hear that? The same logic applies to community solar dryers, where giant solar dryers of about 1,000 kilograms to 2,000 kilograms can be set up to enable shared preservation services. Solar cold storage or solar power irrigation and water harvesting can do the same. So the point is this: generating this symbiotic partnership between government as providers of large-scale shared value addition infrastructure and communities who run and maintain this infrastructure through their earnings from value addition is the way to go. And that takes me to the fourth point, which is we must leverage local governance structures for accountability and traceability of progress. What can't be measured can't be done. Across Africa, the accountability and traceability of development actions continue to linger. But what we know is that local governance structures trusted by communities and which commands the respect of locals can go a long way in tracing the impact of interventions. Ensuring that interventions are delivered through local cooperatives and supervised by local governance structures will go a long way in accounting for and also evaluating effects at the local level and making targeted interventions to prioritize what works for the communities to build their socio-economic resilience. That takes me to the last point, which is that data from all this action is important for policy. Data has proven to work. It's very critical towards informing targeted policy to ensure incentives are targeted at actions and actors that have proven most impactful. This active feedback loop of what has been empirically proven to work on the ground on establishing the long-term resilience of communities in the Horn of Africa and elsewhere in Africa is critical to ensure incentives are targeted at upscaling proven solutions. These are practical ways in which we can build sustainable resilience and move away from reactive to proactive approaches that ensures socio-economic viability of communities across Africa are guaranteed. Thank you.